to observe a consultation, and it's totally fine for people to have questions and also to offer information that they might have. So it's a community sharing event, really, based on this idea that we give this consultation. So this particular spot is, we were trying to model a kind of a suburban setting, urban-suburban setting. We've done a few other ones that were outside of this kind of environment, and so this is our first real, tight version of this, and it's exciting to see all the stuff that you all have been doing. And I remember so the way that we usually go through a process is we have people fill out a little bit of basic welcome kind of agreement, and that helps to outline what is happening during our site visit and how much it costs and all that kind of stuff. And then they go through an intake process, and you finished your intake last night. And so the more people put into that kind of process, we're actually in the process of revamping that intake, because we've been pushing into this strategy for addressing people's long-term planning called holistic farm planning or holistic management. And so we've been using a lot of that in a variety of ways. Organic Grower School's been using it in a variety of ways. I've been using it in my personal life. And the idea of that strategy is you start with, through a variety of processes, coming up with what your real mission vision is for a project. I mean, you could do a holistic management plan for yourself as a person, and how you're going to show up in the world. But as it relates to a project, so we first define the whole, and in this case, the whole might be you and David and the animals that you caretake and this property, right? So that maybe is the whole, and then the greater whole is maybe this neighborhood, and then maybe sort of East Asheville or something outside of that. So we can separate ourselves a little bit from that, but know that we're interacting with this bigger whole, right? So we start by defining that, and then from there we try to come up with a mission vision for what's happening on that, with that whole. And so through a variety of means, you might come up with what that actually is. So the reason to do it is to help people identify the difference between what they really want to do and what they're really motivated to do and what they're really passionate about doing, as opposed to, well, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, well, I'll do that too. And then sometimes what happens when we continue to add projects to this system, we lose track of what the main motivation was, because we're really trying to focus on these other things that maybe aren't feeding us as much, I mean literally or just figuratively, feeding our souls or our minds, or maybe they aren't feeding us the food that we want. And so we have to come back to, is the thing that I'm doing feeding the thing that I really set out to do? So I was saying that because we've been refining this intake process, this self-assessment. My goal is to help people to chart a course for themselves and then wrangle them a little bit, answer questions where I can. I may not know the answers. I'm just a person, and I've been studying what I've been studying, and I know some stuff, and other people know lots of other stuff too. So I tend to just try to help people along with that. But if I can help to focus people in on what their mission is and why, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Is it really feeding you and serving you? The number one thing that we've noticed in our constituency that is where we lose, not so much constituents for Organic Grower School, but we lose gardeners, we lose home growers, we even lose farmers because of burnout, because things aren't successful, because they have taken on too much, because they get overwhelmed, because their life circumstances change, and then suddenly they're without the means and without the motivation, without the clarity, without the passion, without the resources to keep doing what they're trying to do. And although it's easy to think that we should just grow things because it's easy to grow things, just stick them in the ground and they grow, if you want to maintain some sense of order and productivity, there's a lot of forces that are challenging us to reassess what we want to eat, how we want to approach that growing, and I'm sure everybody who's here has had some experience with that, whether it's with a different kind of project or the growing environment where things just aren't really responding to what you are trying to do.
Perfect example right here, as you'll see.
Yeah.
As
There's
we walk around,
certain things that aren't responding as well as other things, and certain things that are responding. For you, it's easier to probably see the things that stick out that aren't working. For someone else,
from the outside, I had no idea what the issues are going to be.
Right. So as people approach a place like this, and even I walked up. I mean, even I, as if I know so much, but I mean, as I walked up, I'm like, oh wow, look at all these beautiful flowers, and this tending. I mean, compared to a lot of the things that are going on elsewhere in the neighborhood, it's what's that?
Compared to the average person, this is
there's a lot going on here, and there's obviously care and passion and desire mixed in here, and ideally partnership and support that's helping to make it simpler and more effective. More people sometimes can make the systems function a little bit better. So we'll talk a little bit about community and stuff. So I'm taking you through the process. So this self-assessment intake is something that Meka did. It was a little bit bare bones compared to what we ideally like. We like it when people spend a lot of time with it because it helps them to develop, what is it that I want? And sometimes I say that this is a means to potentially come up with a business plan. And even if it isn't a business plan to fundraise or to try to solicit something from someone else, it's like, again, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, this is who I'm doing it for, this is what I'm hoping to get out of it, and this is how I'm going to check myself to make sure that it's continuing to do the thing that I want. And like I said, we're refining that process. So one of the things that I like to do when we first meet up is get a little bit more of the story of where the people that are involved came from. Yeah, feel free to sit down. I mean, we're going to sit here for a little bit.
Pull up some grass.
Yeah, pull up some grass for sure. I might